to your unfiltered guide to navigating the workplace as a Black woman, the Black Womaning in Corporate America podcast with your host, Nicole S. Palmer. I am the editor-in-chief and founding partner of Delnick Media, an independent publishing company that amplifies underrepresented and marginalized voices. This podcast was inspired by my best-selling book, Playing the Game While Black Womaning in Corporate America. Let's get into it. Welcome to your very first episode of Black Womaning in Corporate America. I'm your host, Nicole S. Palmer, and if you're wondering who I am exactly, I am the author, the brainchild behind Playing the Game While Black Womaning in Corporate America, the book that will take America by storm in 2025. Of that, I am certain. Just recently was featured on Black Enterprise magazine, which blows me away. And I'll be very honest, I was completely emotional when I saw that come across my LinkedIn feed. I didn't even realize that it had been published last week on November 28th. It just happened to come across my timeline yesterday, and I was so overwhelmed. And then I came across all these other posts related to the book, and it was so motivating, so moving to see the circulation, to see the feedback, to hear what people think about the book. And I know I'm only just getting started, according to my mentor, his words, and I firmly believe them. This is just the beginning, and of that I am sure. And so thank you for being here. Thank you for joining me for the first episode. I will say that I've done a couple of takes now because I want this to be perfect in some ways, but the truth of the matter is nothing about this book was perfect. It was actually born out of a lot of pain. Although it's not featured in the book, it was a very painful time for me when I brought this book to existence. Actually, when I first came up with the concept of the book, I was going through a very dark time. So I'll get into that a little bit, but I just want to say that I wanted this to be perfect, and so I'd written down a script that I wanted to walk through, and as I listened back to the recording, I said, oh my gosh, this sounds so not like me. And so I had to take a step back because I want this to be real more than anything else. And I want you to feel that you can connect, that you can relate. And if I can't even bring my whole self, of all the places where I should be able to bring my whole self, certainly it is here at my own table, right? And if I can't do that here, where can I do that? So I'm gonna do what I do best, which is I'm gonna speak from the heart. I'm gonna riff a little bit. It's gonna be a little off the cuff. I hope it resonates for you. I hope you come back. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're seeing this first episode. I'm glad that you will hear some of what I'm gonna be sharing, which is essentially how this came to be. And with that, I'm just going to go right on in and get into it. So the first thing I want to share, as I thought about all the possible things that I could talk about, well, what do you want to get across here? I have the book, so why would I need to have a podcast? Because the book is the beginning. The podcast is the continuation of the conversation. As I thought about what this should look like, once the book was written, now what? I want to continue the conversation. I didn't want this to be one and done. I didn't want this to be a one-way street. I want to get the input, so it's not just me talking to you. I hope you'll come on the show. We're going to do some audience Q&As. I want to have guests on, and guests are people just like you, other Black women that have gone through the ringer, the gauntlet, if you will. I want to share your stories. I want to talk about the game for Black women. And that's really why it was so important, because I've heard some people actually have some clever thoughts about my deliberate spelling of woman and turning that into a verb. I had one specific individual actually call that out when I first debuted the book on LinkedIn, that woman is not a verb. So how dare I say Black womaning, because I can, and because it exists, and because in the Black vernacular it is 100% a verb. And I talk about what Black womaning is to me. And when you think about the essence, the beauty, the magnificence that Black womaning is, because it is a thing. And if you know, you know that is 100% something that can never be replicated. Not entirely. People try, right? It can be imitated, but it cannot be replicated. And that's what I talk about. That's what, to me, Black womaning is. It is everything that we do. In fact, I had written it down, and if you would just bear with me a second here, I'm going to pull it up because I want to actually read it in the way that I wrote it out as I thought about what Black womaning really meant. And I remember putting pen to paper and sending this out to my mentor, because obviously his input was important to me. And I will mention him a lot, and he'll probably say, okay, Nicole, you don't have to go this far and do this, have all this detail. But for me, it's important. And the reason it's important for me is because he gave me my start as an intern. So it's more from the perspective that he really helped me find my zone of genius, if you will, because before him, I didn't know anything about publishing. I was just really starting out and trying to figure things out. And he really got me leaning into publishing and what that looked like, and also really sparked my passion for the publishing industry. I was always a writer, but he gave me a chance as an intern, and the rest, as you say, is history. So shout out to Barry Beckham of the Beckham Publications Group. He is now retired, but just a little shout out to him and a thank you for being a fantastic mentor and getting my start in the publishing industry. With that said, I gave myself enough time to pull up what I'd written down about Black womaning and this term. And if you just allow me a second, I'm going to read it to you. If this term, Black womaning, appeared in Merriam-Webster's dictionary, the definition would go something like this. Black womaning is living authentically and proudly as a Black woman, deeply connected to cultural heritage and community, while embodying resilience, creativity, and spirituality. An empowering state of being that celebrates the unique strengths and beauty of Black womanhood. That's what I imagine the definition of Black womaning would be if it were to make it into Merriam-Webster's dictionary. And then I go on to say, but in more appropriate everyday vernacular, Black womaning is a verb and a whole sentence. It's the gloss on our lips and the sway of our hips. It's the slick back bun we wear to work Monday morning and the cornrows we rock to the club Friday night. Black womaning is authentically unapologetic about who we are and proudly inhabiting the skin we're in. It is Black magic personified. So when you think about Black womaning as a construct, and I did not come up with this term, I just decided to define it for myself and what I consider that to be as I thought about writing this book. But if you think about the essence of what Black womaning is, and you pair that up with Black womaning in corporate America, it's a whole other story, folks. So this is how I describe the term, the concept that I created, Black womaning in corporate America. Navigating a landscape that was not designed with Black women in mind. That's the first thing that comes to mind for me when I think about Black womaning in corporate America. Due to this inherent and pervasive design flaw, Black womaning is often at odds with what is considered acceptable or so-called professional in corporate America. Black womaning in corporate America is the juxtaposition of being asked to bring 100% of ourselves to spaces that often do not recognize or value our unique experiences and perspectives. And that really, in a nutshell, sums up so much for me. I think even in the simplicity of the words that I choose, which sound very highfalutin if I'm being super honest with you, but I am a word nerd. I love words. I started reading at the age of 4, and I devoured everything in the house that had letters, that had words. I love to read, and so I love words. I love words that are not as commonly used. I love words that are complicated. I love words that are multi-syllabled. And sometimes, if I'm being honest, that in itself flies in the face of my Black womanness, right? Can I say that, womanness? We're going to go with it. So that sometimes who we are, our quirks, our personalities, one of the biggest things for me that I've always struggled with my entire professional career is not sounding Black enough. And you may be surprised, and you may hear the podcast right now and think that I may sound a little too polished. And that's entirely possible. But it's something that I have fought against my entire professional career. And not just from my own community where it's, you don't sound Black, Nicole. And that is a whole other conversation we'll have for another day. But even when I was being considered for roles, having that initial phone screen and sounding the way I sounded, which is not Black, Nicole, was a bit of a challenge, especially when I did not have a name that was considered very ethnic. And it was very surprising to the individual on the other side when I was the person who showed up, which is another story unto itself. But I say that to say that this podcast is about me being my authentic self. And my authentic self loves words like juxtaposition, even though sometimes apparently I can't pronounce them. But the bottom line is, this is a space, and I hope it becomes a space where we bring our whole selves, where we have those tough conversations and really talk about what it is to be a Black woman in corporate spaces. And it's not for the faint of heart at all. And that's why I wrote the book. That's why I'm really passionate about the work. And that's why I know it will make a difference for everyone that reads it. That is my hope and that is my goal. And I'm, again, excited you're here. I want to talk about the fact that, as I mentioned, when I wrote this book, and ironically, and you may or may not know this is a series. So this is book 1 in a series of 7. And believe it or not, there are 7 books total in this series. So the series is Black Womaning in Corporate America, and book 1 is out. You can absolutely pick it up on Amazon. It is out as an audiobook or as an ebook, whichever you prefer. You may not want to read through it, so you can listen to the audio. I got a couple other folks that have picked up the audio, and they're also enjoying it as well. So you may like the audio. It works out to about 6 hours and some change, maybe 7 hours, give or take. The book itself is about 230 pages. It's a pretty dense book, but I promise you've got some fantastic content. And I'm not just saying that because I wrote it. maybe somewhat, but you have some great content there and I highly recommend. So this podcast, again, it's an extension of the book. So I'm not here to rehash the content of the book. You'll need to buy the book in order to see what's in the book. I highly recommend it. I talk about the universal rules in the book. There are 7. Yes, absolutely. There are 7 universal rules to Black women in corporate America. I have outlined what those are. None of them will surprise you, I don't believe. The only difference is that I've put a name to it. I've outlined them and I've shown how they show up in corporate America, how they show up in our work lives. So it's important to get the book because it helps lay the foundation. But I want you to keep coming back here because I'm here to help you navigate. One of the things that I know that I need to still remove out of my vocabulary, and it's something that I learned while I was a graduate student at UNC, go Tar Heels. And while I was there was a term that came up and we had a conversation about it. And it's the first time I actually learned this notion. The term is empower. And one of the things that we learned during our time there is that it is not a term we should use. And that took me aback, but they explained it. And once they explained it, it was such an aha moment for me. And the reason why the term empower is not a good term to use, especially within marginalized communities, is because it implies that those individuals don't have power to begin with. Because the whole purpose of empowering is to give someone power. Well, that implies that those individuals don't have power and don't have agency, and that's just not true. And so my goal, and I want you to hold me accountable for this because I know myself, I'll be perfectly honest, I already saw some instances in the book where I need to fix this. And so the paperback will be revised. And if you have the ebook, don't fret or worry about it. I promise you will get an updated copy into your Kindle. So do not fret. But my point is, I'm not here to empower you. That's not what I'm here for. You already have power, just like I have power. I'm here to help you tap into your power, to help light a spark, to help light a fire. That's what I want to do, and that's what I want to help you. So just consider me your quirky, sometimes nerdy girlfriend you sometimes hang out with. That is a little awkward at times. So just consider me from that perspective. So that's what I'm here for. I want to help you tap into your power because you have power. You don't need me to tell you that. You already have power. I just want to help you see it because that's what this book did for me. And I say that as someone who wrote the book, but I am telling you, it was such a journey for me to actually put pen to paper. And so this podcast is going to be a little bit of behind the scenes. It's not going to give a lot of the book away. I promise you that. As you notice, I've talked around the book, but it's not going to really give the book away because you still need you need this book. I promise you, you need this book. The point of the podcast is to do some behind the scenes, a look at concepts in the book without giving them away. But also, we're going to have some guests on the show. There are specific chapters in the book that I talk about some key elements, such as learning the participants. There are participants or archetypes, as we call them in the corporate lingo, that you need to know about. And so those participants, we're going to have some of those on the show. There are some that were extremely valuable and beneficial to me, and I want you to meet them. I will not be able to have every one of them on the show. I'm certain not all of them will say yes, but hopefully at least half will. And if they don't, it's your opportunity as someone who identifies as one of these archetypes that we will talk about to be a guest on the show. I'm certainly open and happy to do that. But my bottom line is I want us to help each other. I want to help you strategically move through your current space. If you're just starting out, great. If you've been at this for a while, decades, less in between, that's fantastic too. Wherever you are, this book will meet you where you are, and so will this podcast. If you don't want to get the book, that's okay. I hope you will, because I know that it will be of benefit to you. But if you don't, that's okay. You can just come back here. There's going to be plenty of conversation that you can benefit from. So I hope you keep coming back. And this was me riffing, and I feel so much better doing this than actually trying to read from something that I wrote. Just doesn't feel like me. And so from now on, this is what you'll get. You'll get a little bit of formal conversation and mostly a little bit off the cuff, or mostly off the cuff, depending which way you lean. And I hope you keep coming back. These podcasts will go live every Saturday evening at 7. So keep coming back. Let's keep this conversation going. I'm so excited to see where this is going to go. I know that this book is needed. I know these conversations are needed. I don't believe that we can talk about this enough. So let's keep the conversation going. And more importantly, because there is something in it for you, because you may be saying to yourself, okay, so you get all this benefit, but what's in it for me? I'm glad you asked. Or maybe you didn't, so I asked for you. I am doing a weekly giveaway. If you subscribe, share, like, follow on all of the places where you can find me, and I will put those links in the podcast, you will be entered for a weekly giveaway. Every week from now through the end of the year, I am giving away a free copy of Playing the Game While Black Womaning in Corporate America every single week. And you can choose the format. If you'd like an ebook, great. If you'd like an audiobook, that's great as well. So once a week, I'll be giving away a free copy of my book. The drawing will be every Saturday at 9 a.m. So I will announce the winner on LinkedIn. And you have the entire week to engage with the content. Highly recommend you follow on LinkedIn. I have so many different platforms. Some of you follow, some of you subscribe. So you get my point. Follow, subscribe, whichever one you want to do. It's fine with me. So follow me on LinkedIn, Black Womaning in Corporate America. There is a showcase page on LinkedIn. Just look for it. Do a search. You will find me. You can also, if you want to follow me on my website, NicoleSPalmer.com. You can follow me there. You can add a comment there. Any engagement is considered an entry. I am tracking everyone. If it gets to the point that we're talking hundreds of entries, I'll have to figure something else out. But for the meantime, it's been manageable. So please comment, please engage, please share with someone who could benefit from this. I promise you the content will benefit you. I got the best compliment from a male colleague who decided to read this book, and he told me that, I know that you wrote this with Black women in mind, but there are concepts here that I can immediately apply, and I consider that the highest praise. And to be perfectly honest, the reason why it's not called Black peopling in corporate America is because that's not my area of expertise. I feel that we all have a ministry. My area of expertise is Black women, because that is who I am. That is my lived experience. So who am I to say that I can speak on behalf of Black men as well? And not that I'm speaking on behalf of Black women, I'm speaking on behalf of the experiences that most of us have lived. And so I come to it from that perspective. And so I know that if you were to pick up this book, you will get a lot of benefit from it. But at the end of the day, I'm glad you're here. I hope that this will be beneficial. I hope you'll keep coming back, because we're going to have some great content here for you. We're going to have some great guests on the show. So please do come back. Please share it with others. And if you do have some questions, if you do have some comments, please submit them. There are so many venues. Again, I am on TikTok, Black Womaning on TikTok, Nicole S. Palmer on my website. I will put all of those links because it is a lot of them. So I will put all of the ways you can get a hold of me into the podcast link. So thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Take care. Thanks for tuning in to Black Womaning in Corporate America, the podcast. If today's episode spoke to you, make sure to like, share, and subscribe, or submit a 5-star rating wherever you're listening. And don't forget to grab your copy of Playing the Game While Black Womaning in Corporate America, available now wherever books are sold. Until next time, take care.